is a myth, and that is the phrase Prem proven. Now, it is a phrase that gets banded out a lot when a club buys a player from another Premier League club. You'll hear a lot of people say, when they sort of try to say, is it a good signing? They'll be like, oh, you know, he's a good player, he's Prem proven. Now, what that actually means, if you're unaware, essentially, it's all of a belief that if someone has done well and played in the Premier League before, they are proven to be good and successful in the Premier League and therefore are less of a risk and generally should be doing better if you sign them. So I wanted to see, is that actually true, or do people just say that, but actually whether a player has played or succeeded in the Premier League before or not is really irrelevant to how good they are going to do at your club, because quite a few clubs have spent big money this summer on players who I guess are Prem proven, such as like Brian and Wemo, Des Cunha, Joao Pedros, Ryan Aït-Nouri's, etc. So let's see if that's actually true. So what I've done is I've gone, obviously besides this season, the last 3 seasons, so up until the 22-23 season, I've gone back and put all of the signings who teams have made from other Premier League clubs and players who have played in the Premier League before into this tier list, and I'm going to be ranking them based on how that signing worked out. So the tiers we have are bargain, good signing, average, meh, and flop. We've got about 40 names here. Obviously I didn't do every single one, done the more notable ones, but let's get into it, and at the end we'll be able to see, okay, how many are in bargain, how many are in flop. Right, so we start off with a very easy one actually here, Calvin Phillips, a major flop. He was Prem proven. He had I think 2 seasons in the Premier League with Leeds United, done very well. Man City in 22-23 decided to splash a lot of money on him, bringing him in as sort of the Rodri backup and maybe replacement. But it really did not work out for him at Man City, and it's probably one of the worst signings actually Man City have made in quite a while under the Pep era. Alexis McAllister, on the other hand, is a very easy bargain. That was one that did work out. I think he joined maybe the same summer in 22-23. Joined Liverpool from Brighton after some good years in the Premier League with Brighton, and that turned out to be a fantastic signing and a massive bargain. Didn't cost too much money, and he has been one of Liverpool's best players in the last couple of seasons and one of the Premier League's best midfielders, so that one did work out. Max Kilman, now this one is an interesting one. Max Kilman last season joined West Ham from Wolves. Have been in the Premier League and done very well actually in the Premier League for many years. They spent 50 million on him, and I'm gonna say meh. I'm not sure I can quite put him in flop because Gilman did play quite a lot last season. He had a couple good games, but overall wasn't the best for West Ham last season. Considering they paid 50 million for him, would have expected him to do a lot better than he did last season. So I would probably say it's a bit of a meh signing so far from Max Gilman. Elliot Anderson, on the other hand, I'm going to say is another bargain. I think Elliot Anderson joined last season. Forest from Newcastle, had played in the Premier League before and was fantastic. Only cost about 30 million, was part of sort of a PSR deal, but Forest got a really good player. He was a key man for Forest last season, helped them a lot getting into Europe, and yeah, I think that's proved to be a real bargain. James Ward-Prowse, I would say, was probably a flop. Joined West Ham, I believe, in 22-23 after Southampton got relegated to the Championship. And if you want an example of really the definition of Prem proven, that was Ward-Prowse, right? He had played in the Premier League for like 7 odd years at Southampton. Had always done really well in the Premier League with Southampton, but made that move to West Ham and it really did not work out for him. First season wasn't good, loaned out to Forest, barely played, came back, wasn't that bad last season under Graham Potter, but overall, yeah, really not a good signing. Mason Mount is definitely another flop, another player who was definitely Prem proven when Man United signed him. He was fantastic for Chelsea for a couple years in the Premier League. Man United signed him off Chelsea, spent like 60 million on him, and it really has been a bit of a disastrous signing so far. Now granted, a lot of that was due to injuries, but even when Mount has been fit, he's not really been great, and I mean, so far we're really yet to see Mount do much in a United shirt, but to be fair, we haven't really seen a full season yet of him, but so far it's definitely been a flop. Dwight McNeil, I'm gonna say, was a bargain. Everton signed him after, I believe, Burnley got relegated from the Premier League in 22-23. And you know what? McNeil has been fantastic since he's joined Everton. He's been one of their best players. Very consistent at Everton. Was pretty good at Burnley and has sort of continued that at Everton. He's always sort of had these moments, and Everton haven't been the best side since he's joined, but he's probably been their best attacker since joining, so yeah, that was probably a bargain. Matheus Nunes is an interesting one. I probably am gonna say meh. So Matheus Nunes joined in 23-24 Manchester City from Wolves after impressing a season at Wolves. They spent a lot of money on him. I think it was like 60 mil. His first season, I will say, was a disaster in 23-24, but last season, 24-25, he was actually one of Man City's better players, and I think he did improve a lot. And actually, he's played at right back a lot and done pretty decent. I'm still gonna say meh though, just because he's not really sort of lived up to the hype, lived up to the price tag that City paid. Like, he's been a useful player for them, but he's not been amazing. So that's why I would say he's probably meh. Anthony Gordon, I'm gonna say, was another bargain. Newcastle at the time, I think a lot of us thought, what were they doing? Was it like 2024 January window? They spent like 45 million on Anthony Gordon from Everton, who had done well in the Prem, but he didn't really set the world alight at Everton. But it has proved to be a bargain, because since going to Newcastle, he's really stepped up his game and gone to the next level. I think he's been fantastic and one of the best left wingers in the Premier League now, so that was probably a bargain. Gabby Jesus, I would probably put as average. Gabriel Jesus joined Arsenal from Manchester City, another player proven to score goals in the Premier League, and his first season was pretty good at Arsenal, but since then he's really sort of tailed off. He's had quite a few injury issues and his goal scoring has been very poor. But I mean, I would probably say average. You know, he's stayed at Arsenal for a decent amount. He has contributed to the team over the course of his time at Arsenal, but yeah, hasn't really set the world alight, but hasn't been a complete disaster. I would say he's been average, maybe meh, but I'll probably put him in average. Leandro Trossard, I would say, was probably a good signing. joined from Brighton in, I want to say, it was in January. I think it was 2023 January window. Yeah, he joined from Brighton and was fairly cheap. I think has been a fairly good signing in terms of a bit of a depth option for Arsenal. When he's been asked to play, sort of coming off the bench, rotate, he's done his job. He's been pretty decent and sort of done what you asked of him. I think he's been a good signing. Mateo Kovacic, I would probably put in average. He joined the same summer as Mateus Nunes and yeah, started off not so great. His first season was okay, but kind of like Nunes, the next season, last year, I thought he was pretty good actually. Like, he was pretty decent. So, he didn't cost as much as Nunes, so for that reason I would put him one higher and I'll put him in average. Like, he's done pretty decent. Was Premier League proven after succeeding at Chelsea and has done alright at City. Ooh, now this is interesting. Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz obviously was Prem proven at Chelsea, and Arsenal spent a lot of money on him. I would say meh. Havertz has not been a flop. That's definitely way too harsh to say because Havertz has had some decent seasons, like not last year, the 23-24 season he actually put up a decent amount of goals. But overall he has maybe underwhelmed in terms of the price tag. They spent a lot of money on him and yeah, he's done pretty decent. But it took him a long time to get going, and I mean, Arsenal have literally just paid about 70 million on Victor Gyökeres because Kai Havertz, although he's been solid, is not the answer in terms of their striker and is not good enough to help lead them to the title. So I'm gonna say meh, like he's contributed, but for the price they paid, he's probably been a little bit underwhelming. David Raya was a bargain, another Arsenal signing from another Premier League team. They signed him off Brentford and yeah, absolute bargain. Came in and has been one of the better goalkeepers in the Premier League over the last couple seasons at Arsenal. Yeah, very, very good signing. Nick Pope, I'm actually going to say was another bargain. Nick Pope, Newcastle signed him, I believe, the same summer as Dwight McNeil joined Everton after Burnley got relegated to the Championship. And Nick Pope, ever since, has been the undisputed number one for Newcastle, and he's been very good indeed. He didn't really cost too much, and he's really done his job well. Now, granted, I think he's probably about to lose his spot as the number one, but actually, I mean, he's had some really good seasons the last couple years at Newcastle and done pretty well. So, Brennan Johnson, I would probably put in meh. Kinda like Havertz, cost a lot of money. Spurs paid about £50 million to sign him after a really good season in the Prem with Nottingham Forest. And he's been okay, like he has contributed some goals and assists. He's had his moments, but overall, for the price they paid, I think Spurs wanted a lot more from Brennan Johnson, and yeah, I'm not sure he's going to be entirely a starter next season with Spurs. Amadou Onana, I would say, so far has been a good signing. Villa did pay a lot of money to bring him in last season from Everton, but so far so good. I was impressed with him last season at Villa, very good. Him and Yuri Tielemans formed a really good partnership in the midfield, and like I said, so far so good. Jorginho, he was okay, I'll put him in average. Signed from Chelsea, had a lot of experience in the Premier League, sort of as a rotational backup guy, couple seasons. When he came into the team, he was fine. Yeah, don't really have a big issue with that signing. Yves Bissouma, I would probably say meh. So he joined Spurs back in 22-23 from Brighton after sort of like McAllister. He had some really good years at Brighton, but unlike McAllister, he was unable to make that step up from a Brighton to a top 6 club. Again, like Brennan Johnson, like Havertz, like a lot of people in there, he's had his moments and he's had spells where he's looked really good in a Spurs shirt, but overall he's really lacked the consistency to nail down his starting spot as the number 6 or number 8 that Spurs need. And I think he's going to be replaced as a starter now, so I'm going to say meh. Zinchenko, you know what, good signing. I think it was sort of a short spell with Zinchenko, but it was pretty good. It didn't last long, but it was pretty good. Zinchenko joined the same summer as Gabriel Jesus for much less fee from Manchester City, and his first season he was absolutely fantastic. I think he was probably the best left back in the league at one point with Arsenal. Now granted, the last couple of seasons he's sort of been a bit of a fringe player and will probably be moved on. But hey, I mean, for a couple of seasons he was, like I said, the best left back in the Premier League and really helped Arsenal in their title charge, so I think it was a good signing. He didn't cost too much. Declan Rice, another good signing, another Arsenal player signed from a Premier League club, signed from West Ham, and I mean, I spoke about this in ranking every record signing, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but he's done fantastic. Alex Iwobi, I'm actually going to say was a bargain for Fulham. They signed him from Everton, a player who was definitely Prem proven. He had done very well in the Premier League. Well, actually I say very well. He had done okay in the Prem before, had a lot of experience playing for Everton and Arsenal in the Prem. Joined Fulham and he has really got the best out of him. They've got maximised his potential really. He's been amazing since joining Fulham. Last season was one of their best players and yeah, really good signing. Dean Henderson, good signing, did very well. Last season at Crystal Palace, joined from Manchester United and was one of the best goalkeepers I think in the Premier League last season, so good signing. Harvey Barnes, I think, is another meh. Same thing as the others. He's had his moments in a Newcastle shirt for sure, and he has contributed to the team, but he has probably underwhelmed slightly given the expectations they had of him going into when they signed him. They signed him after Leicester had got relegated to the Championship. He had done really well with Leicester, and like I said, he's had his moments, but he's never really been a consistent starter at Newcastle. They paid a decent amount of money for him, but he's been okay. Like, he's been a bit meh though. I think I put him in meh in the record signing video. Yeah, just watch that if you want to hear me talk about him. Maddison, I'm gonna say James Maddison was a good signing. He was signed from Leicester again after they got relegated to the Championship, and although he's had injuries, when he has played, I think James Maddison's been really good for Spurs. Over the last couple of seasons, he's been one of their better players in the attack, and like I said, if it wasn't for injuries, I think Maddison would have done fantastic at Spurs, but when he has played, he's been pretty good. I would say he's a good signing. Smith Rowe, another one who I mentioned before in meh. Raul Jimenez, actually going to be a bargain. When he joined from Wolves, he was a Prem proven striker who had scored goals in the Prem before with Wolves, and he sort of reignited his career at Fulham. He's been really good actually at Fulham, and last season was one of his best seasons, and yeah, him and Rodrigo Muniz are sort of dated, but he's done really well in that number 9 spot despite his age for Fulham. Richarlison, definitely a flop. Cost a lot of money from Everton, a Prem proven striker who had scored goals in the Prem before, but I mean his first season was disastrous. I think he scored like 2 goals the entire season. Last year and his second season, I will say he did improve, like he wasn't that bad. But again, Spurs spent so much money on him. They spent like 60 million on him, and that striker we saw at Everton we've never really seen at Spurs, so I would say he's been a flop. Right, we got like a bunch of Chelsea ones now. Pedro Neto, I'll just rattle through these. I would say average. He's done alright so far. Yeah, so far he's been alright. Started off a little bit slow, but I think has got better and better, and yeah, so far so good. Wesley Fofana. Right, if I'm being brutally honest here, I'm gonna have to put him in flop. Wesley Fofana joined from Leicester after some really good seasons in the Prem with them. But while I think Fofana's fantastic, and when he's played he's been really good for us, he's kind of like Mount, he just never played. He joined for a big amount of money and has barely been on the football pitch. We haven't really had one season where he has consistently played for us due to those injuries, so I have to say he's been a flop so far. Caicedo spoke about, easy good signing. Cucurella, another good signing. Started off very slow and looked like he was going to be a flop after doing very well in the Prem with Brighton, but he has slowly got better, and last season was absolutely sensational. And Rob Sanchez, I'm going to put him meh, because I mean, as much as he frustrates me as a keeper, he was still our number 1 last season. He has played a lot, so it would be harsh to call him a flop. But I think, you know, given his deficiencies, he's been a bit meh. Aaron Ramsdale, yeah, average. Joined Southampton as a Prem-proven keeper, and I think he's been perfectly fine. Wan-Bissaka, I'm actually going to put in bargain, you know. Wan-Bissaka, I think, had a really underrated season last year. Joined West Ham, a Prem-proven right back, after doing well at Palace and doing okay for Man United, and actually I thought was really, really good for West Ham last season. One of their better players, didn't cost too much, so I'm going to say a bargain. Yuri Tielemans is definitely a bargain, joined on a free from Leicester after they went down, and was fantastic, was absolutely fantastic since joining Villa, and as I mentioned last season, him and Onana formed a fantastic partnership. Joachim Andersen was Prem proven when he joined Fulham, and I think has been alright so far. He's been average, I would say. First season at Fulham, after doing well in the Prem with Palace, he's done fine. Like, he's done perfectly fine. Nketiah, on the other hand, I'm gonna say actually so far has been a flop. Palace spent quite a bit of money on him, and he's really only been used as a bit of a rotational guy since joining from Arsenal, and yeah, hasn't really been able to establish himself in the starting lineup. And Sterling actually could be hit twice for his Arsenal and Chelsea move, but I mean both would be flops. Prem proven, but has been disastrous for both. Right, so there we go. That is the rankings, and as we can see, we do have more in the bargain section than flop, and we do have more in the good signing section than flop. We do have quite a lot in meh though. So the conclusion I would say here is most Prem-proven signings tend to work out, and at the very worst, a lot of them just tend to be a bit underwhelming. Like, you have some here who flop disastrously, but a lot of them will either work out or just sort of be a bit meh and be a bit like, yeah, you know, sort of did guys have enjoyed this video.